Good evening. Welcome to the QCIS channel. Where on this channel you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. My name is Leon Jones, and what you're looking at in the background actually pertains to this channel, science, technology, engineering, and math, and that's the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, what I'm doing with my videos, because it makes sense and it gives the videos more of a lively taste, I'm going to add a background. So each video I'm going to try to make different. And that's on both channels. But tonight's topic is an important one. And I'm going to talk about food safety and sanitation. Food safety and sanitation. Now, it is very important that you understand food safety and sanitation because there are a number of people now, it's getting warm here in the northern hemisphere, and people are starting to go out to eat more. However, when you go into a restaurant, you don't know what's going on in the back of the restaurants. And also, you should keep in mind that you should practice the same principles that are required of management in a restaurant at home. And one thing that I see when it comes to cooking, a number of people might know how to cook the recipe, bake the recipe, but they don't clean that well. You should practice cleaning as you go. Now, let me get into this PowerPoint, and we're gonna go balls to the wall with this PowerPoint. We're gonna talk about food safety and, of course, sanitation. Now, the initial questions is, particularly in child care settings, but it's in all settings. Why is food safety and sanitation in child care settings and all settings important? Well, infants and preschool age children are at a high risk because they make up a lot of the population, but they're at high risk for contracting foodborne illnesses. Same with the elderly and same with individuals who have other health problems. Now, when it comes to children, their bodies have not built up adequate immune systems to fight the illnesses. So, what is foodborne illness? Well, foodborne illness is commonly known as what we call food poisoning, and it is caused by eating food that is contaminated by bacteria or other harmful substances. Now, again, you have to understand food safety in itself. Food safety comes from hygiene. It comes from cleanliness. And when I say hygiene, there are a number of people in restaurants go to the bathroom and they don't wash their hands. And there are certain temperatures where you rinse your dishes. We'll get into that in a moment. But as I move on again, let me review to you what foodborne illness is. It's commonly known as food poisoning, and it is caused by eating food that is contaminated by bacteria or other harmful substances. Now, what contaminates food? Well, you have three items. You have chemical hazards, physical hazards, and biological hazards. Now, your chemical hazards are the cleaning supplies. This is why you never place cleaning supplies next to food. Then you have foreign objects. And you can find foreign objects in food when you go to a restaurant. Matter of fact, you must be careful when you open up a can, because when you open up a can, some of them Metal can get right in the food. And if you're eating cherries, you could get seeds from the cherries, canned cherries in the food, crack your teeth. Glass, hair, those are physical objects that can be found in food. Now, biological hazards. Well, speaks for itself. Microorganisms like mold, they pose the greatest threat to food safety and they're responsible for the majority of foodborne illness outbreaks. Now, how does food become contaminated? Well, cross contamination is a contamination of a food product from another source. This is why, even at home, people should practice this, and I try to practice this. Let's say you have chicken. Well, you don't want to put chicken on top of the fish. Chicken can leak down in the fish. That's called cross contamination. You do not want to use your cutting board after you just finished cutting chicken and you put lettuce on that cutting board, onions, cross contamination. So basically, if you look at everything, food becomes contaminated, people, and in restaurants, people should be wearing gloves and hair nets, the equipment you use, and the food. Now, again, how does food become contaminated? By bacteria. Why? Because bacteria also need to grow before they become a foodborne threat. So, when it comes to food, you need to understand proper food handling practices because they're important to reduce the likelihood that bacteria will be allowed to grow and contaminate food. So, 5 areas that I've come up with that will make it very simple. You need to find proper storage, temperature, time, hygiene, and sanitation. Probably come up with some type of word for that to help you all remember. And that word is it's going to be part of an acronym. Haven't thought of one yet, but I will think of one. Now, initial questions. How can I prevent cross-contamination of food and foodborne illnesses? Very easy. Preventative measures. Start by utilizing good personal hygiene. Also, you don't contact food with a bare hand, particularly if you have a cut. And if you have a cut, you should have gloves on your hands, period, when you're working with food. And if you have a cut, you definitely need gloves. And when you purchase food too, make sure that food is safe. Make sure you store it properly. Make sure you clean and sanitize properly. And you prepare and cook food adequately. If you've seen shows such as Kitchen Nightmares with Chef Ramsay, one of the reasons why the food quality is poor is because the restaurants aren't clean. And starting off, you must have good personal hygiene. That is the most important tool you have to prevent foodborne illness. Why? Well, bacteria like Staphylococcus are found on the hair, skin, mouth, nose, and throat of healthy people. So according to one estimate, nearly 50% of healthy food handlers carry disease agents that can be transmitted by food. Now we're talking about food preparers, food services, anyone involved with food service, not just the children, but adults. And again, as I spoke before, don't allow people infected with cuts, sores, colds, or other communicable diseases to prepare your food or serve your food. Hand washing. Hand washing is the most single important means of preventing the spread of infection, illness, and cross contamination. Proper hand washing procedures. Now, a lot of people really think they know how to wash their hands. Well, basically, I'm just going to tell you this. You should wash your hands between 10 to 15 seconds with water right around 100 degrees. So what you have to do is wet your hands with running water as hot as you can comfortably stand. Then you apply the soap. Then you vigorously scrub your hands and arms again, like I said, for 10 to 15 seconds. Rinse thoroughly with running water. Dry hands and arms with a single paper towel or warm hand dryer. Now, I don't agree with the warm hand dryer because some of these warm hand dryers have also had filth and dust in those machines. I would actually go with a single use paper towel. You can throw those away and it can be recyclable as well. Hands should be washed before preparing food, after using the toilet, after sneezing, coughing, or blowing your nose, after touching foods or other items that may be contaminated with bacteria or other harmful substances. Now, when we talk about bare hand contact, we look at people who are actually preparing the food. So, if you are a food preparer, single-use gloves shall be used when working with ready-to-eat food items, bread, fruits, vegetables, deli meats and cheeses, tuna fish, raw animal food such as chicken, pork, and beef. Now, when we talk about single-use gloves, remember this. Single-use gloves can only be used one time. You cannot use one pair of gloves for multiple tasks. Because when interruptions occur in the operation, example, a food preparer needs to get something from the refrigerator or storage room, gloves need to be replaced because they become contaminated with touching door handles, packaging, etc. Also, your food server, your food preparer, teacher, or helper, and you need to practice this at home. Use utensils, tongs, serving spoons, spatulas when serving or handle food. Again, use single-use gloves. Have children serve themselves with family-style utensils, the regular knives and forks. Also, kids can also grab food themselves as an opportunity to teach. Now, again, I will say this, single-use gloves. I'm going to hit on this topic probably all night long. One pair of gloves may not be used for multiple tasks. Again, when interruptions occur during food service. Here's an example. A food server needs to pick up a fork that fell on the floor, help a child push in a chair, or an elderly person, or a sickly person, touching anything but the prepared food. Gloves need to be changed. Now, when handling glassware, dishes, and utensils, do not touch food contact areas with bare hands. Purchasing safe food. Now, I will tell you this. Some people don't check their food. You could get produce and it could have bacteria. It could have worms in it. Heck, some produce and some foods may even have dead rodents. You need to buy only from reputable suppliers. Also, have an eye. Inspect deliveries carefully. Sample temperatures of received food items. Put refrigerated and frozen items away immediately. And you should apply the same principles that need to be in a restaurant or any food establishment at home. You have to get in a good habit. A lot of us have bad habits because we take everything for granted. Also, grocery store. When we talk about purchasing safe food, read the label. Do not buy food that is past the sell by or use by or other expiration dates. Purchase meat, poultry, and dairy products last. Ground beef, look at the color. This is why I'm an inspector here. I use the same tools in the field of construction, and then I turn them over to food because you need to understand the color of ground beef. Ground beef should be cherry red or purple red if it's in a vacuum package. Also, place meat, poultry, and seafood in plastic bags to prevent juices from dripping on other foods in the cart. Well, for the most part, when it comes to meat, it should already be wrapped. And something else when you're at a grocery store, and I've seen some cashiers do it, you don't put food in the same bag with chemicals, and you don't put animal foods in the same bag with dry goods. You don't do it. In fact, when you have raw meat, you should put raw meat in separate bags. Now, if it's frozen, that's a horse of another color. But you need to get it home as soon as possible. But the third item, I just talked about raw meat. You keep raw meat, poultry, and seafood separate from other items. Check that all food packages are intact. Select produce. It's another thing. Look at your produce. Make sure that it is fresh, not bruised or damaged. Now we really get into storing food because you know there's a danger zone. Now, you want to keep all of your food out of the danger zone. That's when storing it and that's when cooking it. So when you keep food out of the danger zone, well, you need to know what the danger zone is. So refrigeration, it's 40 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. Freezer, it's 0 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. Now, something that should be done even when you're working in the grocery store, label and date food. Again, label and date food. At restaurants or any food establishment, they should have what we call day dots. And the reason why I'm saying that is you don't want to mix the old or leftover food with new food. So leftover food which was not served must be labeled and dated, refrigerated promptly, and used within 36 hours or frozen immediately for later use. Now, basically, that's in restaurant establishments. At home, you can do different, you can have different ideas, but also, I would also freeze food too. You don't want to have it sitting in a refrigerator because food can mold in a refrigerator as well. Now, when we come to commercially prepared or ready to serve open food items, they can be kept up to 7 days when they are properly stored or refrigerated. Dry storage. When you store anything in a dry storage, dry food should be stored in sealed containers, zip-tight bags. That's zip-tight bags, metal, glass, or food-grade plastic containers with tight-fitting covers, and they should also be labeled. Also, your storeroom should be clean, dry, ventilated, and lighted storerooms or areas protected from contamination by sewage, water backflow, condensation leakage, or vermin. And if you have shelves, they should be at least 6 inches above the floor. If I'm a food inspector, I'll be checking for that. Also, we get into cooking. Prepare and cook food adequately. So one thing that a number of people don't know how to do is thaw foods properly. Now, you can keep your food in a refrigerator, thaw them at a temperature of 40 degrees or lower. Run cold water. Now, the water must be 70 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. Microwaving. Now, I'm not a real big fan of microwaving, not for thawing, because once you do that, food must be cooked immediately after thawing because contamination will occur. Now, part of cooking processes, food must meet the required internal cooking temperature. I believe it's 165 degrees. Your danger zone is actually 45 to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Cook to minimum temperature. Again, I said it before, 165 degrees should be your internal temperature. And that's for poultry, stuffing, casserole, anything hazardous that you can cook in the microwave, such as eggs, poultry, meat, and fish. Doneness versus safety. Now, how do we know food is done? Well, I'm going to tell you this. This might change your mind. That's all subjective. It is not objective. It's like beauty. It's subjective. So many of us have a different definition on when our food is done. However, the proper way to look at your food is look at the appearance, the texture, the color, the smell, and the flavor of food. That's when we talk about doneness. But when we deal with safety, we're talking about cooking our food to the required minimum temperature to destroy bacteria. And also, if you're unsure of what the temperature is, use a food thermometer to accurately measure the temperature. Now, if you have leftovers and you want to recook them, heat to 165 degrees and bring gravies and sauces to a rolling boil before serving them. So, this is what you have to be careful for when it comes to microwaving, because you may think that something is hot in the microwave, but where is the cold spot? It's always in the middle. So, in a microwave, beware of cold spots and use a thermometer to check the temperature in several places. Avoid the danger zone. Again, when food goes above 40 degrees, when hot falls below, they say 135, unless they change it, it's actually 100, it's 40 to 145 degrees. But they may have changed it to 135 degrees. But it used to be 40 to 145. Now, remember this, bacteria can multiply rapidly in perishable food left in the danger zone for more than 2 hours. Also, throw away perishable food that has been left at room temperature for more than 2 hours. Now, food safety basics. So, as you see my chart, it's color coded. You see the blue, you see 0 degrees. That's when water freezes. So bacteria survives, but it does not grow. So that's a proper food freezing temperature. Then from 32 to 40 degrees, that's safety zone for cold foods. Now, in let's say the gold here, 40 to 135, danger zone. Do not hold foods between those temperatures. Then we go from 135 to 165. That's the safety zone for hot foods. Then we go from 165 to 212. And that's when you heat and reheat foods between these temperatures. And then water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, something that I do talk about, cleaning and sanitizing. Any surface that comes in contact with food must be cleaned and sanitized. When I talk about clean, that means remove food and other types of soil from a surface. And when I talk about sanitizing, that's reducing the number of microorganisms on a clean surface to safe levels. A bleach solution. Well, with bleach, you have 1 capful of bleach, which is 1.5 teaspoons to 1 gallon of water. That is your sanitizing solution. You don't even have to buy sanitizing solution. You can make it at home. Now, you also use other approved sanitizers. Now, something that you need to know in a restaurant, they actually have a 3-sink unit. Now, what is that 3-sink unit called? Well, you wash, you rinse, and you sanitize. That's how the 3-unit sink is supposed to work. Also, surfaces. What surfaces? Kitchen counters, knives, mixing spoons, and other utensils, mixing bowls and other food preparation containers, cutting boards, tables that children, adults, that everybody eats on. And see, if you properly clean everything and sanitize everything while you're cooking, you don't have to go back and clean again. This is why you clean as you go. You save a lot of time, but you do it right and you do it safely. Dishwashing procedures. I call it a 3-unit sink. They call it a 3-compartment sink. Well, number 1, rinse, scrape, or soak items before washing. When you wash your dishes, you should wash your dishes in between 110 degrees to 125 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's how hot your water should be. And you must use soap or detergent. And you rinse by immersing in clean hot water to remove soap, detergent, or by spraying soap and detergent off. And that's by removing all traces of food and detergent. If dripping the items, change the rinse water when it becomes dirty or full of suds. Then you sanitize for a minimum of 2 minutes in 1.5 teaspoons of bleach per 1 gallon of water or other Department of Health Services approved sanitizers. Something, we do this here at home, air dry items. Turn them upside down so they will drain. And remember that 3-compartment sink I told you about? Well, also you need to have a receptacle near you so you can actually dump the food particles in the receptacle. Here's what the 3-compartment sink looks like. Here you have your dishes that you're going to wash. You have your can. So what you're going to do, you're going to scrape all of your material or your food particles in the can. And then you are going to wash. There's your wash compartment, 110 degrees. Then you're going to rinse. And you're going to sanitize. And then you're going to air dry. You should follow that process every time you're washing dishes. See, when we talk about working in the kitchen, most of us look at cooking food. But cleaning every night should be a good habit. And that's just not cleaning the kitchen, that's cleaning yourself as well. That's knowing the proper procedures so you do not only get your guests sick, but you should include yourself and your staff that you're working with because everybody is human. And remember, like I say on the construction site, safety is everybody's responsibility. Now, in the restaurant business, one person should have a Serve Safe certification, which is good for 5 years. But you need to practice the same principles at home because a lot of us carry bad habits out in public. Everything starts at home. Now, what if you don't have a 3-compartment sink? Because at home, how many of us have a 3-compartment sink? Most of us have a 2-compartment sink, and some of us have a 1-compartment sink. Well, if your center has a 2-compartment sink, you must arrange for all 3 steps: wash, rinse, and sanitize. So if you don't have a 3-compartment sink, use a bucket. Purchase a bucket tub to put your sanitizing solution in and sanitize your dishes in the tub. Again, you use 1.5 teaspoons of bleach per 1 gallon of water or other Department of Health Services approved sanitizer. Or you wash, rinse dishes in the 2 sinks, then you drain the rinse sink and make a sanitizing solution and sanitize the dishes after. Also, there are 2 types of dishwashers. There's a commercial and there's a home type dishwasher. So for your commercial dishwasher, because we are in our dishwashing procedures, well, the dishwasher shall have a visible temperature gauge. So you wash at 130 degrees Fahrenheit to 150 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 seconds. Rinse and sanitize at 180 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 seconds or more, or use chemical sanitizer. All dishes, utensils must be air dry. Now at home, not at home. Well, after dishwashing is done, sanitize dishes, utensils by submerging them for 2 minutes in 1.5 teaspoons of bleach per gallon of water or other Department of Health Services approved sanitizer. All dishes, utensils must be air dry. And basically, that is it for this topic. And it's very important that you understand food serving or food preparation or food safety, food sanitizing procedures. It's very, very important. But what you need to remember, when we deal with food, you have to ask yourself, how does it become contaminated? And what can you do to prevent contamination? Well, these 5 areas right here: food storage, temperature, time, hygiene, and sanitation. Those are the 5 areas that are preventable, or their prevention techniques to reduce the growth bacteria, not just in your restaurant, but home. And I'm telling you, you need to be careful when you're eating out. You also need to be careful when you're going grocery shopping. Most of us take a lot for granted and we don't pay attention. And when you come up sick, you might not know why you're sick. And some of the restaurants, and I got to call out some of these Chinese restaurants, you don't know what's going on in the back. People don't look at the food. Some of these restaurants keep food for weeks back there and you're eating it. Now, I know when I go into a restaurant, one of the things I look at is who has the Serve Safe certification. Now, you can have that certification, but are you practicing the principles? And in your house, if you have a dirty kitchen in your house, you need to believe that you have a lot of bacteria around. Because even in your own house, clean out your refrigerator. And, I'm thinking you shouldn't really pack your refrigerator with a bunch of stuff you don't need. Watch the dates. I know I've made mistakes by allowing food to go past its expiration date, then I'm throwing it away. Bottom line is, make sure you read all the labels. Make sure you keep everything clean and sanitized. And if you follow the food safety and sanitation practices at home, just like they do at a restaurant, it's going to keep you informed. Because you don't need to go to the hospital for food poisoning. There are a number of restaurants out there that are liable for the cases of food poisoning. But you know what? Something else that I didn't mention, and I will mention this too. But what about you as a customer? You have some dirty people that go into restaurants as well. They also carry germs. How many of them go in and out of facilities without washing their hands? How many of them touch the doors coming in? Should they not bear some responsibility when it comes to food, service, and safety? Absolutely. Safety is everyone's responsibility. But if you practice what I've taught you, and you have knowledge, you will prevent yourself, your food establishment, the people around you, and your house from becoming contaminated with bacteria. And that concludes this topic on food safety and sanitation. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. Again, if you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you are looking for some social and political content, check out my main channel, the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show channel. It's also right here on YouTube. Now, here's where you can find me. For my main channel, the 401 Talk Zone Radio Show channel, you can find me on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter. You can also find me on Rumble and Truth Social. Now, for this channel, the QCIS channel, you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on X, formerly Twitter. And you can find me on LinkedIn. Once again, thank you for viewing this content about food safety and sanitation from the QCIS channel. On this channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening.